Welcome to another chess class, and today we'll be going over the 5 crucial tactical concepts every player must know. So, in the game between Larry Christensen and Anatoly Karpov, Christensen starts with d4, knight to f6, c4, e6, knight f3, b6, a3, bishop a6, queen to c2, bishop goes back to c7, knight to c3, c5, e4, taking the center, cd4, knight d4, knight c6, and trades knights, bishop f4, knight h5, attacking the bishop goes back to e3, and Karpov makes the unfortunate mistake of playing bishop to d6, and this is a mistake because it allows queen to d1, which attacks the bishop on d6, and a knight on h5. This is called a fork. A fork is simply when one piece is attacking two pieces at the same time, and essentially queen b8 is forced, and the knight on h5 is hanging. So Karpov has to resign in this position. In the next game between Julio Kalpan and David Bronstein, Kalpan starts with e4, e6, it's a French defense, d4, d5, knight c3, knight f6, bishop g5, de4, knight e4, bishop e7, takes, to f3, knight to d7, queen to d2, c5, attacking the center. Now d5, that's an interesting move. f5 is an accuracy, but I don't think it's that bad a move, to be honest. de6 is a mistake because simply de6 is a mistake. Takes, and you just lose material in this position. I thought you would lose material in this position. Let's try and calculate. Okay, d takes e6 is a mistake because f takes e4, e takes d7 check, queen takes d7, queen c3, and see what happens if it takes. Oh, the rook hangs. That's exactly why you don't take. So you castle first, and the knight goes to d2. And this is interesting because the g file is open, but computer says it's slightly equal. That's very interesting. So now queen f5, long castle, queen takes f2, and knight takes e4. What a mistake. Because this allows for the concept of a pin to arise. So now, queen f4 is a fork, and knight has to go to d2. And that knight on d2 is pinned to the king on c1. That's an absolute pin. And an absolute pin, this knight cannot move. If it was a queen on c1, for example, the knight can move. That's bad because knight can't move, and black will simply pressure the knight. Bishop to g4, attacking the rook on d1, rook to e1, bishop to g5. This is exactly what I said. Putting pressure on the pin piece. Gotham Chess loves to say that. Bishop to d3, rook a to e8, rook e to f1, attacking the queen. Simply queen e3, h3, bishop e2, rook f5, bishop h6, bishop takes a2, e2, queen c3, bc3, rook e2, rook d5, rook d2, and yeah, simply, oh, beautiful. This is a great learning moment. Instead of taking with the bishop and equalizing the position, rook to d8, pinning this piece because it's an absolute pin. You will win. This wins material. This does not win material. Rook d1, c5. I don't think that wins material. Excuse me, wait, that doesn't win material because the rook can defend. But c5 locks up the pawn structure and fixes the c3 pawn as a weakness. And black is victorious, and Bronstein wins. Sorry. In the third game, with Bruno Parma and Bobby Fischer, Parma plays e4, Fischer plays c5 as a Sicilian defense, knight f3, d6, d4, takes, knight f6, this looks like a dragon, knight c3. No, this is a Najdorf. Okay, he plays a Najdorf. Bishop to g5, mainline Najdorf, e6, f4, taking more space. Queen to b6, queen to d2, and this is an interesting move. Queen b2, rook chases the queen away with rook b1, queen a3, and bishop takes f6, gf6, bishop b2, knight c6, knight b3, bishop g7, f5, castles, castles, knight e5, knight d4, b5, and I get counterplay on the queen side, king h1, bishop d7, bishop h5, rook a c8, getting the rook to the file, c file, rook b3, queen c5, which computer mark is inaccuracy, but I think it's completely fine. Knight c to e2, knight c4, attacking the queen, queen to c1, e5 is a mistake in this position because it allows rook to g3, hitting the bishop on g7 to the king on g8. Now king g8, and now the brilliant rook takes g7, and he sacrifices the rook. King takes g7, rook f3, and now rook g4, rook g3, queen a6, and queen takes a7, rook to f. Okay, I thought he was going to play rook f8, but that just allows queen f7, king. Oh wow, this is brutal. King d8, rook takes. Oh my god. Oh my goodness. Knight to f4, queen a5, knight d5 check, king b8, h3, knight e3, knight c8, king c8, knight e3 was a mistake that equalizes because that. Oh, that was a mistake because that allows. Oh, that allows a perpetual because this king is too weak. Wow. Now bishop check, and now it's a perpetual. Wow, that's a blunder. Okay, so the critical moment in that game was when not even e5, and this is oh, that was an example of obscure because okay, excuse me now. This position, this is an example of obscure because the king has to go to f8, queen f6, queen h6, king e7, queen a7, and f7 is threatened. But I would expect rook f8, but they didn't play rook f8, and that rook on g8 ended up dropping. And it was a draw because he shouldn't have taken the knight. Actually, come to think of it, that was a huge blunder because his back rank is weak, and you can just perpetual the black can just perpetual the crap out of this and save it. So that was an interesting game. The game is between Richard Reddy and Tartakovsky. So now Reddy starts with e4, c6, Carol Khan, d5, c3, takes, knight f6, queen d3, which is an interesting move, e5, d5, queen a5, bishop d2, queen e5, long castle, and knight takes e4 is the mistake. Find the sequence that ends the game immediately. Classic example of a checkmate. Queen to d8, bishop to g5, king to c7, bishop to c8. Classic example of a discovered attack. Classic example of a discovered attack. Because in this scenario, a discovered attack essentially occurs when you're moving one piece to reveal an attack on the other piece. In this case, it's a double check, so he has to move out of it, and bishop to d8 is a beautiful checkmate with the bishop. Last game is between Zuckerfort and Blackburn. Zuckerfort starts with c4, e6, e3. Oh wow, it's English. Knight f6, knight f3, b6, bishop e2, bishop e7, castle d5, d4, bishop d6, knight c3, castle b3, knight bd7, bishop to e2, queen to e7, knight b5, knight e4, knight b6, cd6, knight to d2, knight f to d6, f3, knight d2, queen d2, bc4, bishop c4, d5, bishop d3, rook f8, rook a1, rook c7, e4, rook c8, and pushes the knight away, f4, taking more space, g6. Okay, that unnecessarily makes weaknesses around the dark squares around this king. Rook to e3, swinging the rook over, f5, our favorite en passant. Oh, knight to f6 is a mistake because of f5, knight e4, bishop bishop takes, and now the king's side is ripped open. So fg6, rook to c2, check. Now the king has to go. Oh, and this is a. Oh man, that's disgusting. d5. Wow. d5, e5, queen to b4, rook 8 c5, allowing the beautiful deflection. Rook to f8, check, sacrificing the rook. King takes h7, queen takes, king there, bishop takes, begging for the king to take the rook. And the deflection happens when you're basically removing a piece from defending a certain square. So an example of that. Because bishop to g7 will win the queen, because the king has to go to g8. If it goes to e8, that's a nice checkmate. So he has to go to e8, and he loses the queen and the game. I hope you all enjoyed watching this video and can have a good rest of your day.